they're going to try and advance a narrative that Donald Trump does not have the temperament to be president, as if she does. So how are they going to do this? Well, late last week, it was reported that Hillary Clinton invited Trump agitator Mark Cuban to attend tomorrow night's debate, as many news outlets reported. In 2014, Mark Cuban, he made this shocking remark to Inc. magazine when he was asked about controversial racial comments that were made by former L.A. Clippers owner Donald Sterling. Now, Cuban, he later apologized to Trayvon Martin's family for those remarks, but he also stood by those comments. But will Hillary Clinton now disavow those racial comments and maybe even disinvite him? Now, let's keep in mind, Clintons have called the late senator, Hillary herself. She said that Robert Byrd was her mentor. And we can't forget that Senator Byrd was a former member of the KKK. Now the Clinton campaign is trying to get the media to do all of her dirty work and call out, quote, Trump's so-called lies. So let's take a walk down memory lane if lying is important, because I would argue Hillary could be called the biggest liar of them all. She lied over and over again about her email server scandal. You might remember all of this.
The laws and regulations in effect when I was Secretary of State allowed me to use my email for work. That is undisputed. It clearly wasn't the best choice. And I take responsibility for that decision. I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and for my personal emails instead of two.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone. Okay, in full disclosure,
BlackBerry.
and a BlackBerry. I believe I have met all of my responsibilities, and the server will remain private. In order to be as cooperative as possible, we have turned over the server. They can do whatever they want to with the server to figure out what's there or what's not there.
And there's a lot more. Remember during the Benghazi terrorist attack that left 4 Americans dead? That was back in 2012. Well, Clinton emailed her daughter hours after the attack, and she wrote, quote, 2 of our officers were killed in Benghazi by an al-Qaeda-like group. The ambassador, who I handpicked, and a young communications officer on temporary duty with a wife and 2 young children. Very hard day, and I fear more of the same. Now, Clinton knew the truth, but she told you, the American people, this lie.
This has been a difficult week for the State Department and for our country. We've seen the heavy assault on our post in Benghazi that took the lives of those brave men. We've seen rage and violence directed at American embassies over an awful internet video that we had nothing to do with. It is hard for the American people to make sense of that because it is senseless.
Well, she told her daughter one thing, the Libyan president one thing, the Egyptian prime minister and the same thing, but you, the American people, something very different. Doesn't get any more blatant than that. Now, tomorrow night, Clinton is going to try and do her very best she can do to aggravate, agitate, irritate, upset, get under Donald Trump's skin. My advice to Donald Trump, don't take the bait. And maybe you can use a line from the Gipper, Ronald Reagan, and say, well, Hillary, there you go again. Joining us now is Fox News contributor, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, good to see you. Welcome to House.
Good to be with you. You have quite a crowd there.
Yeah, we do. They're pretty. Listen, I went to school right down the block from here, so this is family for me. All right, let me start. That's Hofstra University. Let me start with Mark Cuban, because I think this is really interesting. Mark Cuban, you know, saying, I know I'm prejudiced. I know I'm bigoted in a lot of different ways. If I see a black kid in a hoodie on my side of the street, I'll move to the other side of the street. Now, he also said, I stand by my words and substance after saying that. Hillary, according to Cuban, invited him to be in the front row. Should Hillary disinvite him? He may not be in the front row now, but he's still an invited guest by Hillary. Should she disinvite him? Imagine if Donald Trump invited him.
I was going to say, imagine the New York Times if Donald Trump had invited somebody who said those exact same words. The shock, the anguish, the embarrassment, the demand that they withdraw. If Mark Cuban's there tomorrow night, you will have as perfect an example of the double standard of the liberal media as anything you could hope for, because obviously the comments he made in the current context should be totally unacceptable. And yet, my guess is that not a single liberal publication will notice them.
You know, that's interesting. But if it was Donald Trump who invited somebody with that track record, who said my mentor was a former Klansman, who invited a guy that admits he's a bigot and would walk on the other side of the street if a African-American kid in a hoodie was walking on that side, they would be disinvited. Do you think the Trump campaign should demand he be disinvited?
Well, I think they should certainly highlight the clear hypocrisy of Hillary Clinton and the entire elite media, who are so delicate, as long as it's a conservative, but who can ignore anything if it's a liberal. And I think people ought to go and ask Cuban, does he really still stand by what he said? Or would he concede that it was really wrong and really sent the wrong signal?
Well, he definitely doubled down on it. All right. Now, Hillary and her campaign, they're looking for support from Lester Holt tomorrow. And they want Lester Holt to do Hillary Clinton's job in terms of debating for her Donald Trump. What is your reaction to that? They seemed a little desperate.
I've never seen a campaign so publicly indicate that they don't have faith in their own candidate. They apparently don't think Hillary can stand up to Trump. They don't think that she can correct him if he's wrong. They somehow want Lester to be their partner. They're desperate to create a 2-on-1 situation where Lester and Hillary are on one side and Donald's on the other. And I think, first of all, I don't think Holt's dumb enough to do it. And second, I think that it just tells you that the Clinton people are very anxiety-ridden. They've watched their polls go down week after week after week. They're now, frankly, fighting to survive. And this is her first big test. And in the past, she hasn't done very well with big tests. So it'll be interesting to watch tomorrow night. I'm like you in that I'm really looking forward to this debate. Is one of those things that
I'm looking
the rest of your life, you know.
Yeah, listen, I think we may have 100 million people watching this. Let me ask if you agree with this thing. Do you agree with me that Hillary, she says she's going to advance Obama's economy and same economic agenda. She can't run on foreign policy. She can't run on honesty and trustworthiness. So my question is, do you agree that she's going to spend a lot of time tomorrow night trying to, well, aggravate Donald Trump? Is that the strategy they've adopted?
Well, certainly everything they've said publicly would indicate that that's going to be their desire. You know, and I think that's a big mistake on their part. I've watched Trump very closely, and Trump's actual strength is as a counterpuncher. My guess is if she went in there and she handled him very delicately and she was very respectful and we got a very boring debate, that he'd go along. I mean, he's going to modulate and operate at the level she sets. But if she really wants a barroom brawl with Donald Trump, this would be an insane misjudgment. Yeah, I mean,
I tend to agree.
You know, and then Trump, by the way, Trump's been very clear about that.
All right, let me ask this, because Hillary and her campaign, I think they were trying to work the refs today. Oh, Donald Trump lied here. Oh, Donald Trump lied here. She's like the #1 lying politician in the history of Washington, D.C. I'll give an example here, but I guess the longer question out of Trey Gowdy questioning James Comey about all of her lies is, how does Donald Trump delicately say to the former Secretary of State she's a liar? Watch this.
Secretary Clinton said there was nothing marked classified on her emails either sent or received. Was that true?
That's not true. There were a small number of portion markings on, I think, 3 of the documents.
Secretary Clinton said I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Was that true?
There was classified material emailed.
Secretary Clinton said she used just one device. Was that true?
She used multiple devices during the 4 years of her term as Secretary of State.
Secretary Clinton said all work-related emails were returned to the State Department. Was that true?
No, we found work-related emails, thousands, that were not returned.
Secretary Clinton said her lawyers read every one of the emails and were overly inclusive. Did her lawyers read the email content individually?
No.
All right, so my question is, Hillary's made honesty and lying an issue now going into this debate. If you're Donald Trump, how do you point out she lied about Benghazi, she lied about her email server, and lied about a lot of other issues?
Look, I think his greatest strategy would be to be respectful and slightly lower key than people expect. So I think, for example, if he says, you know, that's simply not true, as opposed to you're a liar. If he says, how can you possibly say that given what the director of the FBI has already said? I mean, I think he wants to be pulling her out rather than attacking her. And where possible, he wants to be making fun of her. Just to say, for example, you know, nothing the director of the FBI has said agrees with what you just said. How do you explain that? I think that kind of keeping her on defense.
You're a lot nicer than me. I think I'd be more blunt, but I think it's good advice. So I think you should listen to you. But
yeah, I can be blunt, but I want to be effective. And I think you don't want Trump to be the issue. You want Hillary to be the issue because she is the liar.
Well said. And I do remember, look, you went after people in debates. That's Mickey Mouse, what you're asking me. You didn't hold back at all. But stay right there. We'll have more with Newt Gingrich right after this break. Welcome back to Hannity. So with the first presidential debate less than 24 hours away, the Trump and Clinton campaigns, they hit the morning shows to preview the main event. Let's take a look.
It's unfair to ask for Hillary both to play traffic cop with Trump, make sure that his lies are corrected, and also to present her vision for what she wants to do for the American people.
But isn't that what a debater is supposed to do?
Well, I think Donald Trump's special. We haven't seen anything like this.
I really don't appreciate campaigns thinking it is the job of the media to go and be these virtual fact checkers and that these debate moderators should somehow do their bidding. They picked on Matt Lauer after the commander-in-chief debate for him. We thought he did a great job, but they didn't like the fact that Hillary Clinton was asked about her email server and her vote in Iraq. That's not Matt Lauer's fault. And Lester Holt, he's a respected, brilliant newsman. He'll do a good job tomorrow night as a moderator.
All right, as we continue with former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich, you know, let me quote Jim Lehrer, who said, I don't think the fact-checking is the function of the moderator. And by the way, he did the first presidential debate for the general election campaign from all the way from 1988 to 2012. They sound like they're whining before the debate even begins.
Did you ever think you'd end up with the two clips you just had, where it's the Democrat begging for the news media to protect their candidate, and it's the Republican going, hey, we trust Lester Holt, it's going to be fine. I mean, this is the opposite, and it's because Hillary is so weak. She is so incapable of moving at Donald Trump's speed that they are just desperate. And their campaign tonight must be very anxiety-ridden, whereas I suspect Donald Trump's very comfortable. He knows what he's going to do.
Right,
he knows how to do it.
Yeah. Now, she was whining that she wanted a step stool at one point. There's no coughing breaks if she has one of her infamous coughing fits. That's going to be a problem for her. But last week she did this interview where, to me, it was really bizarre. The tone, the pitch, the cadence was so off that one has to wonder if these health issues are far more severe than they are telling us. I want you to watch and listen to this.
Let's do everything we can to make sure we've got quality, affordable health care for everybody. We're going to improve the Affordable Care Act. It doesn't have everything we need from it, but we are going to do what we can to make it work better, and that includes calling on Congress to repeal the Cadillac tax and to rein in prescription drug costs and out-of-pocket expenses. And I'll defend every worker's right to organize and bargain collectively. And I will fight back against so-called right to work. Right to work is wrong for workers and wrong for America. Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask? Well, the choice for working families has never been clearer.
Now, as you answer that, do you see what I see? And there was this other incident where she's twitching uncontrollably. And why are you looking at me like that? But if you, there seems to be, when you, what?
John, you want to go off into health. This is a person who's nuts. I mean, it's not about her health, it's about her brain. I mean, how could you stand there as a presidential candidate and go, oh, why aren't I 50 points ahead? Well, someone in the audience could yell at you because you're a liar, because you're corrupt, because you look like you're angry all the time. I mean, I've had two different interpretations.
Watch this. Slow down. Watch this twitching that she does. 1, 4, 5, 6, and does it again. It just, again, boom, boom, boom. And then if you listen to her voice, didn't it sound bizarre to you? Add that to the deep vein thrombosis, cerebral venal thrombosis. Add that to her collapse and all the other health issues she's had. What do you think's going on here?
I don't know. Do you think if I had a different kind of voice that you'll be worried about me a whole lot? I'm just asking because I don't want to get too far out of the way, but it does strike me that sometimes she seems very harsh. I just want to put that on the table, just a way of thinking about it. I mean, what I'm struck with, somebody wrote me a note that I thought was very interesting that said she's joyless. That if you watch her, there's no sense of happiness, there's no sense of enthusiasm, there's no sense of liking life. I mean, she's going through the motions. She's doing whatever she learned at Wellesley to be the valedictorian. But it ain't fun. And what you know with Donald Trump is he's having fun.
Would she be relieved if she lost? Is that what you're saying?
Look, I think she might be relieved if she got an invitation to go on a trip up the Amazon. I mean, I think this has got to be very, very painful for her. She can't get out of it. She has spent her whole life getting to here. She put up with Bill Clinton for over 20 years to get to here. She has paid her dues every way she knows how to. We owe it, and you see this on one thing you showed us. We owe it to her to make her president, and we're not responding appropriately. And she doesn't know what to do.
Donald Trump is up in Iowa. He's up now in Colorado. He's up in Nevada. He's up in Florida. He's up in Ohio. And he's within 2 points in Pennsylvania, 3 points Michigan, Wisconsin. That is not good for her coming into this debate tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
I am really looking forward to tomorrow night and to being with you afterwards.
Well, I can't wait to get your analysis tomorrow night. Thanks, Mr. Speaker. We'll see you tomorrow night right here from Hofstra.
I'm running to be the voice of the forgotten men and women of this country. My opponent likes to say that for decades she's been fighting for women, that she's been fighting for children. Why then are 70 million American women and children living in poverty or on the brink of poverty in our country? Why has she provided no relief for the millions of Americans in search of affordable, reliable, quality child care? For years she's been doing this and she's done nothing. You know the old saying, watch what I do, not what I say.
Donald Trump yesterday going after Hillary Clinton's record. Joining us now, Fox News contributor, the editor of LifeSet, nationally syndicated radio talk shows. Laura Ingraham is with us. Laura, all right, let's get your general thoughts about tomorrow night's debate and the whining and crying and please, Lester, help save us. What's your reaction?
I think, Sean, that this is a moment for Trump to reassure the public, those in the middle who are still not quite sure about him, not sure if he's trustworthy to have his finger on the button, and just allay the concerns of women who want to vote Republican but are not quite there. And also more independence. And for Hillary, you know, it's her time to stand and look like she has some type of new way forward, new from Obama, different from what we saw in the last 8 years, which obviously has not worked. So it's a harder road for her, I think. The conventional wisdom is that it's harder for Trump, but I actually think it's harder for Hillary because we know Hillary. We've been witness to what Hillary's done over the last 30 years. I think Trump's right. She doesn't have a lot to show for it. But Trump has to reassure people. He has to come prepared and ready to reassure America. And if he does that, I think he's going to come across really well.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I think she's going to try and aggravate and agitate him, which is what I've been saying. And look, Donald Trump's smart. He's not going to dissolve like Alka-Seltzer in water in front of Hillary Clinton. I don't see that ever happening. But you're right in one sense. She's got a higher bar. She said she's going to continue Obama's policies. Okay, we've got 12 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more Americans in poverty. We've got the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s, the worst recovery since the 40s, the lowest home ownership rate in 51 years, and Obama's accumulated more debt than every other president before him. Yeah. How do you defend that? How do you defend Libya, Benghazi, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Iran?
Well, she's not.
How do you defend any of that?
Yeah, Sean, I think you hit the nail on the head. She's not really trying to defend it. Her entire campaign is based on the following. Her campaign is based on Donald Trump is untrustworthy and he's crazy. He has a temperament that is not suited to the presidency, so you just can't pull the lever for him. That's her whole campaign. She's not even really trying to defend her record. I mean, she has no record to defend. I mean, all she ever says is, I sat in the Situation Room and I traveled all over the world and I know these people. So she might be able to beat him, Sean, on the pop quiz tomorrow night. If there's a pop quiz, she might be able to beat him on that. But he comes forward and he says, look, I might not know the pop quiz, but I'm going to know what to do when push comes to shove. And when we needed her in the Situation Room the night of Benghazi, she wasn't there. So if he comes forward and he speaks in those terms,
wait, she was there. That night she was asking a very important question.
Yeah.
She had our military men and women change their uniforms 4 times, but she never sent them in to help those Americans under fire. She was there. Yeah, but she made the wrong decision.
Yeah, was she in the Situation Room? I don't think she was that night. I don't think. But
well, she was the highest-ranking cabinet official in the meeting.
Yeah, but she didn't convene the counterterrorism task force. I mean, we all know that night ended really badly, and then she lied about it, and she allowed a lie to go forward to cover up what was ultimately U.S. government, lack of effort, lack of action. So, in the end, if Trump comes across as reassuring and calm and pragmatic and smart, then he wins this. He doesn't have to know like who the defense secretary of Albania is. That doesn't matter. But if he comes across as someone who says, look, you can trust me. I'm going to put your interests first. I'm going to pare back this government. It's way too big. It's way too out of control. And I'm going to chart a new path forward. Stick with me. I'm on your side.
I think that's great advice.
That wins.
And let me add one other thing to that. I think this is as big a choice election, Laura, as we've seen in our lifetime. And I would not hesitate if I was Trump to point out, okay, do you want a president that can identify our enemy, radical Islamists? Do you want a president that will vet refugees? Do you want a president that will protect our borders? Do you want a president that's going to put originalists on the Supreme Court? Do you want a president that will repeal Obamacare and a president that will make us energy independent and give education back to the states? Those are big distinctions between these candidates.
Sean, you're hitting it. The issue of safety and the issue of home and safety, happiness. Those are great words, and they're great sentiments, especially for women. I can say this as a woman voter: safety, home, and happiness. We fight all the time in Washington. We have arguments. We fight. People want to have a little time to have happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we also want to have a sense that we're safe at home. America, as she is going to be a country that's protected and where the president's always going to put our interests first. So if Trump hits those themes, home, safety, happiness, which encompasses prosperity, I think those are big for women voters, regardless of what you think about a lot of the social issues. Those are important themes for women voters, I think.
I think you hit every note. I hope he's watching tonight. Anyway, Laura, good to see you.
Great to see you, Sean. Take care.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks.
African Americans have given so much to our nation and sacrificed so much for this nation. Many African Americans are succeeding so greatly in our country, and I will make sure their success is protected and supported. At the same time, too many African Americans have been left behind and trapped in poverty. I will fight to make sure every single African American child in this country is fully included in the American dream.
Donald Trump on the campaign trail yesterday, continuing his outreach to African-American voters. Here with reaction, we have Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark, Salem nationally syndicated radio host Larry Elder. Sheriff, good to see you in Long Island. How you doing?
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Appreciate you being here. Y'all say hi to David Clark. All right, I'm just checking. He has made outreach to the black community a top priority of his. It seems to be showing dividends in the polls.
Sure, a cornerstone of his campaign. He has appealed to the black vote, to the black community like no other GOP candidate probably in the last 50 years. Sean, I'm tired of black people living life at the bottom with this monolithic vote for Democrats. You know, the schools have gotten worse. The unemployment numbers have gotten higher. The crime has gotten worse, all under Democrat control. I'm encouraging blacks. They got two choices. I'm just encouraging them. It's their vote. To vote Donald Trump, like he said, give him a chance. What do you have to lose? Or stay home. Okay, and if that happens, this race is over.
Yeah, you know what? And she does not seem to motivate people. She has no charisma like Barack Obama, Larry Elder. You know, you give out stats like I do, Larry. I think our minds work the same way in a lot of ways. But 58% increase black Americans since Obama's been president on food stamps, 20% increase out of the labor force. Blacks disproportionately negatively impacted by his policies that she wants to continue. Why would you vote for more of that? Anybody?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, Sean, you are absolutely right. In order for Hillary to win this debate, she has to get under Donald Trump's skin, characterize him as some sort of lunatic. And I posted right before I came on your show 10 ways I thought Hillary was going to do it, 10 things she's going to drop on Donald Trump, including the allegation that he's sexist, that he's xenophobic, that he mocked a handicapped reporter, and, of course, that he's racist. And I suggest 10 ways he ought to respond. And he ought to respond exactly as the sheriff did. Talk about the economy. Under this president, black net worth is down, black home ownership down, black equity is down, black poverty is up, the so-called wealth gap between a black family and a white household hasn't been this wide in 25 years. He ought to talk about how laws like minimum wage has damaged prospects for teenage black people. Jared Bernstein is Vice President Joe Biden's economist, for crying out loud. He says a $15 minimum wage is too high. And talk about how immigration has taken away jobs. There's a movie called Car Wash that was in the 70s where all the people working at a car wash, not far from where I live, Sean, they were all black. Those jobs are now taken by illegal aliens. And talk about school choice. The Democratic Party will not let a black parent or a brown parent take their kid out of a bad, underperforming public school and put them into a better school. Now, if education is a route towards the middle class, who's standing in your way and who's opening the door for you? It's the Republican Party that's opening the door.
These statistics are real people, real lives, needless suffering, failed government. Sheriff Clark, it seems to me the Democratic Party takes black Americans for granted in this sense. They come calling every 4 years, and they want the vote. Show me where the results are.
And then after the election, they tell them to get back in the basement until the midterm elections. The exploitation of black people has got to stop in terms of the electoral politics here. Like I said, they've been lied to for 50 to 60 years, ever since the war on poverty. Nothing's gotten better for the black community, for black life. So I think it's high time. And I think that it's what a unique opportunity that Donald Trump stepped in. And, I mean, who would have guessed it, right? But I think it's been effective. I'm not predicting a seismic shift right now, but I'll tell you what. Black people in the community are listening, and if they're listening, there's a chance. And it only needs to shift a few points.
Listen, polls show he's getting that. Larry, we'll give you the last word tonight. Yeah.
And Sean, there's a marvelous YouTube video with Malcolm X chastising black people in 1964 for voting 80% for the Democratic Party and not getting a civil rights bill. What would he say about black people voting 95% for a man when the #1 reason that blacks voted for him was not because he was black, was because they thought he would improve the economy? He has failed, and he called black people political chumps for doing the same thing again, even though they've been double-crossed. They have been double-crossed. The primary reason that Obama was put there by black people is because of the economy. He has not delivered. Don't be a political chump.
All right, guys, good to see you both. Sheriff, we'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you, sir. Larry, always good to see you. Thank you. And welcome back to Hannity. So, as the candidates, they get ready to face off in the first presidential debate tomorrow night. New polls show the race is extremely close. In the latest ABC News, Washington Post national poll, Trump and Clinton are virtually tied in a four-way race among likely voters. Among registered voters, the race is tied at 41. Here with reaction, former Clinton pollster, Fox News contributor Doug Schoen, Fox News senior correspondent Geraldo Rivera, Washington Examiner contributor Lisa Booth. All right, but it's worse than that, Doug, in this sense. Trump up in Iowa, Trump up in North Carolina, Trump's winning Florida. Aggregate poll numbers, he's winning Ohio.
You forgot
he's
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, 2-point race.
Yeah, I know.
Wisconsin and Michigan, 3 points, and Nevada. This is not good when you look state by state.
Sean, look, I've always given you no spin, the truth.
Right.
This is bad. This is a tied
No.
race.
This is good for the country.
Bad for
Bad
Hillary.
for your candidate, yeah.
The movement in the swing states, all to Donald Trump, the national polls to Donald. If he is able to be presidential, not take the bait tomorrow night, he will at the very least get a slight bump. And Secretary
Just
Clinton,
doing that.
Secretary Clinton,
just not taking her bait.
Right. And Secretary Clinton's got a huge challenge, Sean, of taking him out and taking him down with the kind of attacks that Larry Elder was talking about. Will it work? I don't think so, but that's the game.
Geraldo?
I think that Donald Trump, I've known forever. Incidentally, my sister Irene taught here at Hofstra University, 15 miles where I grew up. He's got to be a movie star. He can't lose that. It was that charismatic confidence that got him here. If he goes all wonky, she's going to walk all over.
He's not going to go wonky.
But he can't be boring. He can't give us that monotone that he sometimes
When has Donald
does.
been boring?
He can't give the monotone he sometimes does.
He couldn't be boring in his sleep, Geraldo. Let's be honest here.
She's going to be cutting. She's going to be going after him.
Yeah, but
She's
she
gonna
then
be
runs.
provoking
But
him.
she runs
She's
the
gonna
risk of
try to
being
get
mean
him.
and non-substantive.
Well, I don't think that she's going to be mean. She's going to say things that are very, very provocative.
And
though, that he has to
he's
respond
a
to.
counterpuncher. He'll hit back.
Well, and tomorrow's a huge opportunity for Donald Trump, because you look at over 100 million people that are estimated to be watching. Hillary Clinton has been killing him on TV in battleground states, and this is a massive opportunity for Donald Trump to reach voters that maybe haven't heard from him
But wait a minute,
as much.
but those ads aren't working, are they?
No, but this is a good opportunity for him, Sean, to reach those voters. And Donald Trump does better when he's the one that's controlling the narrative. And I know that's what we're going to see tomorrow night if he stays on message of being able to drive the narrative, control the narrative, and put Hillary Clinton on the defense. And if you look at the country right now, Sean, CBS News had a poll of the battleground states and found that 55% of voters, they wanted big changes for the economy, for politics. You look at other polls from Quinnipiac University
He's the
where
change
people want
candidate.
radical change. He's
Sean,
the change candidate, and
has
she is
to
status
say,
quo.
He has to come back to change and corruption all the time. In the same way, Hillary needs a vision, an agenda, and some idea where she's going to take the country.
While that is all true, there are vulnerabilities in both candidates. If she goes after him, his business acumen, and she says, what about these bankruptcies? What about these people who allege that you cheated them out of this or that? He's got to respond confidently, factually, and then put her on the defensive with the crooked Hillary. But he will have his hands full, as Bernie Sanders did. People were shocked that the charismatic socialist was really battled to a draw by Hillary in these debates.
I'll be honest, I thought he did much better in the debates against her. And I'll tell you, you keep looking at these videos, and the video last week, she does not look well, in my opinion. There's something wrong with her tone or pitch or cadence.
Well, and I think it's important for Donald Trump, too, to not pretend like he's a politician, because that's what people like about him. They like the fact that he is the outsider candidate. So, yes, I think he should have some understanding and a substantive understanding of the issues, but he shouldn't try to be her. He shouldn't try to be the politician. And
So he shouldn't go out of his way to be somebody he's not. He doesn't have to be wonkish, as Geraldo
exactly.
said.
And if she does try to do some sort of pop quiz scenario with him, all he has to do is say, I've not been a politician.
Like you.
Right, and I'm here to change things. I'm a builder, and I change things.
And a job
that's
creator.
what I'm here to do.
Does she ask him what NATO stands for? The nuclear triad. Who's the prime minister?
I think that's a very bad idea for her.
Why?
Because it makes her look like she's an inside Washington
I agree with you.
politician. If I were her, stay even, talk about her issues and themes, and make the case
I got a question.
that Trump isn't
If she has a
qualified.
coughing fit, does Donald Trump walk over